Throwback Thursday. So last week I spoke about Ally McBeal as one of my favourite shows, and there's going to be the top 5 shows which I think are pretty much perfect TV shows ever made. Ally McBeal was my first. This week is HBO's actual debut series, which was for each episode was an hour long. It's a program called Oz. Now, Oz is definitely not about the Wizard of Oz. Oz is a program set in an American prison. It's created by a person called Tom Fontana, who is a genius. If you ever get to see Oz, started in 1997, finished in 2003, six seasons, 8 episodes in most seasons, apart from season 4, which was 16. Probably the most hard-hitting TV series of all time. Being in a male prison, there is immense amount of violence. There is homosexual rape, there's murder, there is devious behaviour, and from a psychoanalysis point of view, this show was immense. Great acting. If you know British actors, Eamon Holmes, who was very famous in Some Others Do Have Them, actually is a Muslim guy called Kareem Saeed, who is actually a leader and has done previous crimes and tries to redeem himself. There are some other great characters which I'm going to discuss in a minute. However, to explain the actual show, Oz is a correctional facility, and it's an experimental prison where they try and get the prisoners, some of them who are in for life and murder, everything, is to actually rehabilitate. And it obviously has very many consequences because of this experimental unit of the prison, which a man called Tim McManus runs. He wants to help with these members of society. However, all the factions are at each other because they're all in different forms of gangs. The warden, Leo Glenn, who's played by Ernie Hudson, is a genius, tries to understand all these fight for power and try and work out how to get everybody getting on. So in these, I'll explain some of the actual groups in the thing. So there's the African American Homeboys, which is one of the main leaders of that is a guy called Adebisi, who is absolutely a gargantuous figure in this show. Very much influential, scared of, a little bit crazy, has a drug problem, very manipulative, and actually lasts for many seasons until he's eventually killed by someone else who's another quite high profile character in the show. The other group is the Muslim group, which is what I said about Kareem Saeed runs, and they are obviously do not eat pork, they don't drink alcohol, they don't do drugs, they're the like extremist version of the Homeboys. Then you've got the Wise Guys. These are the Italian gangsters, mafia, who are in there, and obviously you can imagine with this is based in like upper New York. I mean, these are some of the most ferocious people, and how they deal with things, how there's got hits on people, all sorts. Then we've got obviously the polar opposite is the Aryan Brotherhood. These are the people who hate anyone who is non-white, and their leader is a guy called Vern Schillinger, and he is J.K. Simmons, is probably one of the most evil characters I've ever seen in a TV show. Absolute evil mastermind, does some stuff which, you know, even in prison he somehow manages to arrange things in the outside world. He is, and some of the things that he does, how he breaks down people, is ferocious. And then we go into some other groups. There's the Latinos of Al Norte, which is it's a Latino gang, and these are all the different sects in the prison. And then you've got the Irish, which is Ryan O'Reilly, who is the Machiavellian character. He causes a lot of problems in the show, and somehow he survives the whole show, and he just does everything he can to survive. Then you've got the biker gang, and then you've got the Christians. So there's obviously all these different things, and then there's some other people who are not part of any particular group, and these are kind of the rogue people, and these sometimes cause fractions between different things. So this is an example, and why it's such a good psychoanalysis show. You get to learn all these individuals and how they have to learn to survive, how they have to learn to do devious things, how some people go from being, you obviously understand they're criminals, but how they actually survive within that. And I'm going to explain about one main character who I think is probably quite the anchor of the show, and I think it's quite important to explain that. main anchor of the show is a character called Tobias Beecher. Tobias Beecher is a middle class, never done any crime, not streetwise, is a high profile lawyer. Unfortunately, he has a drinking habit, and he accidentally, while he's drink driving, he hits a girl. Now, because he knows all the people in the court and everything, he should have get a leniency, but the person who was the judge decides to make an example of him, and he ends up in Oz Penitentiary. Now, Oz Penitentiary, once you've seen the beginning of this show, you start realising how brutal these people are. And this is a guy who's now come in here who's not streetwise, has no idea, doesn't even realise people are like this. He's just been a lawyer. He doesn't understand the criminal underworld. And what you see in this 6th series of the show is that how his arc goes from someone who is very innocent, very much wants to do the right thing, and then actually becomes like a mastermind criminal, and the things he has to do to survive, how he gets away with things, and the way he does to survive, of also using people, gets affiliated with the other gangs. He also helps them with, because he's a trained lawyer, he helps some of them get off their cases or get some hopes they get parole. But this is a character who has an arc who you feel very sorry for, because he's really should not really be in prison compared to these other guys. And then what conspires is just how he is being bullied, and then how he turns, and when he turns, it's brutal. So this show, why I think it's so good, is that it tells you a lot about the psychology of humans, and how that if we have bad social conditioning, how we can end up that there's not that much radical difference from a normal person to a criminal, because it's all to do with the conditioning. And I think this show, in 1997, when this first came out, I was 15, and as a 15-year-old, I shouldn't have been watching this show. If my parents my mum allowed me to, but she wasn't keen on it. But she knew that as long as I watched it in my own time, and it is a very brutal show. I mean, it's completely. I don't think there's anything on TV that's even come close to it. The Wire, Sopranos, the violence is just not on the same level. And I think what you learn about this show is about how all these people interact, how they try and learn to survive, and also trying to understand each other of why they have to do these things for survival. It teaches you about the idea of kind of the animal kingdom, but within and it's also like a stage play, because obviously the show, you see obviously when the people go in prison, you see the outside world, but you don't see it all the time. You mainly see what's happening in the prison. So the idea of it feels quite claustrophobic, and that obviously makes it an intense environment, which causes this melodramatic ideals. There's a lot of Shakespearean themes in it. And for a TV show at that time, 1970, it was pretty out there. I think it was. I don't think I can think of any show, and I've seen Breaking Bad and all of them, is actually as brutal as this. But the actual psychological ideas and how the development of these characters, they had a lot of depth. And I still think on TV, this is why I say it's my second favourite show, because it didn't really have much comedy, and that's where I think it for me, that's why Ally McBeal is better, because it has that comedy element to lighten it, whereas Oz is so intense that sometimes after you've watched an episode, you can actually feel. And I remember when I was a kid, I originally watched it in the UK on Channel 4, and it used to be on at 9 o'clock, and I think after 3 episodes they saw it was so violent they put it on at 12 o'clock at night, because it was just so brutal. And British TV was like, what, we can't have this at 9 o'clock, because this could be like older teenagers watching this. It's so immensely clever and so interriched in these ideas. So, and I'm going to now discuss some of the main characters I think who are more important just than Tobias Beecher. Couple of the characters, one of the guys who is the astute narrator of the show is Augustus Hill. Augustus Hill is a black guy who ends up, he is arrested during his arrest for drug offences. However, he killed a police officer, but in retaliation another police officer threw him off the roof. So when he actually ends up at Oz, he's in a wheelchair. Obviously before then he could walk. And due to his disability and distaste for heroin, he's now associated with the Homeboys until Redding, surrogate father, arrives in season 4. He tries to remain neutral and friendly, and in fact no inmate wants to wish him harm, aside from the Aryans, who don't like any black people obviously. And then this is where the moral compass of the show is like guided, and I think he's the guy who's Howard Perrineau is a genius actor. I mean, when you watch him in Best Man and things like that, he's quite soft, but when you watch him in Oz, he's this genius character, and I think him and Tobias Bleacher keep it together, that you have some normality within this amount of crazy criminality. Obviously we've mentioned about Tobias Bleacher, who he was, and obviously there's some more things go with him, that he ends up he goes against Vern Schillinger, who's the guy in the Aryan race, and there's this battle between them of doing different things. Like he ends up going to get his son killed. He then kills his own children outside. I mean, it's pretty brutal. And then there's another guy called Chris Keller, who ends up becoming his gay lover in the prison, but he is a psychopath, and he double crosses him and everything. So you've got this guy who's always on the edge, and then doesn't know who to trust. Vernon Schillinger, the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, is an abominable human being. He treats people like they're his slaves. He is an absolute brutish man who uses Christianity as his idea of the Aryan Brotherhood and Aryan ways that he justifies his actions. And J.K. Simmons I don't think he's ever played a role like that afterwards, not on the level anyway. Ryan O'Reilly, Dean Winters, who's another great actor, is this Irish American inmate, really clever with this Machiavellianism and how he comes up with this obsession and how he can manipulate situations for his own benefit. There's also some interesting guys like Bob Rebideau, who's the guy who is an elderly inmate serving life for murder, but how he sees a lot of things in the future, so he predicts a lot of things which actually can happen in the prison. So it's quite an interesting predictor, and it gives you like an insight of where he can see things. Kareem Saeed, we've mentioned, is the charismatic Muslim leader. Miguel Alvarez is part of the on and off leader of the Latin inmates in the prison, and his father and grandfather are in the prison, so he's been brought up in a life of crime. Then we've got Simon Adebisi, absolute deranged maniac, incarcerated for decapitating a police officer. And then what he does in the show goes even worse. His use of insanity and religion are kind of transient, they kind of mix all the time. And although it sounds weird, he's somewhat racist in another way, like counteracting the Aryans. So you got this, like, he hates white people, but then he'll work with them if he wants to get rid of someone. So there's this kind of weird sort of crazy way of his world working. Then when we get into some of the other secondary characters, some of the obviously the Muslim characters, and then some of the homeboys and so forth, and they all sort of kind of work in this different way of helping different people. One of the things that the Aryans have as an issue is they run the post room, and actually if you actually watch the show, you then find out what happens in the end. Of some real revenge gets to them in the end, because they are absolutely horrible to the inmates and the things they caused and the way they try and kind of control the prison. And each one of these gangs are always trying to control the prisons. However, the actual most of the things within it are always about these brutal clashes. So the bikers are clashing because they've got different thoughts on race and religion, but they're very similar to the Aryans, but they also don't believe in some of the things they've done. So there's certain things they have. I would probably say one of the worst, the gangsters is another one as well, because some of these are from the streets, so they've got some street rules and things. So again, some of these have all got little beefs with each other, and this is all part of this show, which is, and the thing is, because it's obviously in a penitentiary, some of these inmates are killed. So the regularity, some regularity of characters, but there's some are so transient that it keeps it on edge, and you never know who's going to die, which is very unusual for shows, because most shows, it's kind of like, you know, the main character's not going to die, but in this, you just don't know. Why do I think Oz is a great show? Well, apart from what I've mentioned about some of the characters, and I can't go too much into the details because obviously I'm giving away the plot, and I want you to watch the series. And HBO downloads and digital, it's great to watch this series. One thing I would say why Oz is on the level with Ali McBeal and one of the top 5 shows, I think, is the plot arc of each character is so detailed that you feel that you understand these characters, and sometimes you're also in a conflict because sometimes you feel sorry for a character, but at the same time you know how evil some of these people are, but they know they've got to survive. So there's conflict in your mind of how you feel characters should work and how they should behave. And I think what this does as a TV show, it made people think more about why people act the way they do. And I actually think, for me, I think it should be re-shown a lot on repeats because it would be a deterrent for people not to want to go into prison. If you watch a show like that and you're a criminal, or you want to be a criminal, or you're in criminal life, you watch that show, it would put you off because the stuff of what them people are, they're not safe. They're not safe in that environment ever. Anyone in that show example can show that they can be killed at any time. From the original show, I think there's only like 5 main characters survive the whole of the 6 series alive. That's telling you how bad. And even that means the people who are the governors and stuff have issues times where they have nearly been killed as well. So it's even the people who are running the prison, the guards and everything like that, they are also interchangeable. So what I think it is, it keeps you on your toes as a series, but what it also does, it shows that the psychologies of people is that we have to understand people in a deeper manner, and not everything is so black and white. There's a lot of grey area, and there's a lot of conditioning and problems and the idea of rehabilitation, it sounds a great idea, but in practice it's so hard because we've all got such division and divided ideas. And I think in contemporary society now, this is an issue, is that because so many people have got so many divided ideas, they don't try and come into like a one understanding of trying to understand each other. And I think that's where this show was really trying to push that. Unfortunately, the trouble is with Oz as well, and this is not its downfall, it's just that it never got the awards it should have done, because Sopranos came out 2 years later and everybody loves The Sopranos. So The Sopranos sort of overtook it in the dynamicism, but it's strange because Oz, to me, and I love The Sopranos, so I'm going to talk about it next week, but The Sopranos is not as deep as Oz. I don't think it goes into the deep understanding of characterization. I think a lot of the characters are quite plastic. I think it's Sopranos, which is fine because it's the mob and it kind of works that way. And Tony Soprano's the main character, so you want to get the understanding of him. But I think with Oz, there's so many of the characters are incredibly rich, and I think Tom Fontana has never really been given his dues. And I think the actors who have played in it, they've all gone on to do great things. But I do think that some of them have never bettered their roles. I mean, Dean Winters is a great actor, but I don't think he's better than Ryan O'Reilly was in Oz. I don't think Eamon Holmes, he to me is another guy who I don't think has ever bettered that role. I think it's just sometimes some people are so good at them roles that they just end up, they just cannot seem to get out of that. Eamon Walker, sorry, not Eamon Holmes. Eamon Holmes is a TV presenter in the UK. So I would recommend Oz for anybody to watch something but I will warn you, for the faint-hearted, do go in there knowing this is a brutal TV show and it's no holds barred. It's not the sort of thing you go in there to make yourself happy. If you want to watch things happy, go and watch Friends and something like that, or maybe be Ali McBeal. If you want to go into Oz is something where you want to get into something which is deep. And then when you do eventually get to watch Oz, you can see the influence it had on Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad, Dexter, and a lot of other shows. And I still think most people have never equaled it. Anyway, next week we're going to talk about The Sopranos and why that's such a great show. And so I did criticise bits of it, but I'm going to explain actually why it is such a good show, the thematics, ideas and things. And then the week after that is another HBO show. So we're doing 3 HBO shows. So we've done Oz, done Sopranos, and then we're going to do Sex and the City. And then to top off the top 5, we're going to do Fraser. And Fraser is a psychologist, so kind of mixes with my work as well. So we're going to do that. And any questions you have, or would you like any more videos, or if there's any TV shows you know of and see if I've seen them, and then see what my review of them is. I have got about 30 shows I'm going to review, and I've got music albums and stuff like that. So as of when the Sopranos and Sex and the City and Frasier are done, I'm also going to review music albums, books, artists, and so forth. Anyway, until next week, thank you.